Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Financial Tides. I am your host today, Taylor Perillo, certified financial planner, and I am here to talk to you guys about struggling in your 20s and that broke versus building mindset and kind of how we can reframe it. So, just as an introduction, if you've ever looked at your bank account and felt like you're drowning and thought, hey, I should be doing better, this is the episode for you. And spoiler alert, you're not behind, you're just building. So let's reframe this decade of your life in your 20s, not as broke, but as the time that you're laying the bricks for your long-term success and kind of setting yourself up for the future. So the world is going to try to sell you on this idea that you're in your 20s and you're trying to have it all, but you're struggling and you're broke. Really, we're trying to say that you're building the tools to earn it all eventually. So, to start, we're kind of talk about the common sentiment that's often attributed to the late Charlie Munger, which states that saving your first $100,000 is the hardest part of wealth accumulation. So, let's think about that. It makes sense. The first $100,000 getting to there, you don't have a lot of compounding dollars working its way up, working its way through. So you have a lack of momentum in the beginning because even if you double $1,000, it's only $2,000. And we know that doubling isn't something that typically happens overnight. So you have a lot more that you have to put in the early stages through saving and investing and kind of building that momentum. And then you also have to build the habits. So you're saving $100,000. You have to start developing those strong financial habits like living below your means, setting a budget, consistently investing. And these habits take time and effort to establish. You're not necessarily going to have the high income that you might have later in your life. So getting to that first $100,000, you're going to need to build the habits. And then you have the time value of money. So the earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to grow through compound interest. So if you reach that first 100,000, that's great. It's hard, but then the next 100, next 200, next 500, and getting up to $1 million is a lot easier because now you have the money compounding and you have the time value of money working on your side for the longer time horizon and subsequent milestones. So it's really important, again, getting to that first 100,000. And then the last one is just the psychological factors. So slow progress in early stages makes it really hard to keep that discipline up. So if you have $10,000 invested and you only see it goes up 20%, which is a great yearly return, and you feel like, oh, I had $10,000, now I have 12,000. It really isn't that much, $2,000. I waited a whole year for this. But that same 20% when you have $100,000 and it's $20,000, you didn't really do anything but let the money sit there. It feels a lot better. So that's one of the psychological factors that when you're looking at your funds and it's a smaller number, it's harder to stay the course and say, hey, this is worth doing and continue doing when you're not really seeing it as much earlier on. So the faster growth, the faster your money starts working harder for you because now it's compounding. You'll have greater confidence because you'll have a proven ability already to save and invest, which can boost your confidence in taking on those new financial opportunities that you might have, like switching a job because you've already done what you needed to do. And then you'll have increased income potential because, again, that higher paying job you'll be able to actually take and take on calculated risks while choosing what you want to do next in your life. So, like I said before, it's easier every subsequent milestone after you take that step and get that first 100,000 together because of all these reasons above. So, and you've already set up the habits kind of necessary for your long-term success, to keep you going and keep doing the things that got you to your first 100,000 that'll power you to get up to a million eventually, hopefully. So one of my favorite quotes, and I say it often, and I don't know exactly where I got it from. I may have came up with it on my own just from talking with clients over the years, but there's the saying, live like you're rich and you'll end up broke, but live like you're broke and you'll end up rich. And I think that really just comes from the culture that we kind of live in now, especially my generation. And maybe this is just a Southern California thing, but I see it all the time. We're a culture that's obsessed with the appearances of luxury travel, cars, designer brands. And I think especially in the age of social media, it's everywhere. You see it everywhere. It makes you think that everybody is doing all of these things, and it makes you think that you have to do it and keep up with the Joneses. But looking like you're rich is not the same thing as being rich. And I think that's really important because being rich often looks boring at first. It's not something that you're out on social media posting about that you put money into your 401k plan. It's not anything that's celebrating the successes that you got to your first 100,000, and you're starting to build up from there. So I don't think that's the exciting stuff you see on social media, but it matters. And I think it matters in your 20 again because of compound years. If you have more compound years and you're getting there in your 20s, yeah, you didn't get to do the business class flatbed trip to Thailand or to Japan or to Europe, but you're building up what you need to that's going to set you up for the long-term success. So let's talk about it behaviorally. So kind of the choices that you should try to aim to make to help you get to that first 100,000, and help you kind of build the building blocks for setting yourself up. And again, it's about building, not being broke. So we're going to talk about the building blocks that help you get there. So the first is going to rent below your means. So I know that having a nice apartment and a luxury apartment and your living scenario is a big deal. You're spending a lot of time in that place. If you're working from home, you're probably spending probably over 90% of your life in that one spot. So you want to live in a place that you really enjoy, but that doesn't mean that you should rent above your means or have any rent that's a significant portion of your income that prevents you from saving. So I think the easiest rule of thumb here is instead of giving you percentages, I'm going to say if you can't save at least 10 to 15% a month, you're probably renting above your means. And there is a place out there, and I know rent in Southern California here is expensive, but you'll be able to find places, even if it means a little bit of a longer commute, a little bit of a tighter space. There are ways, having roommates, to cut out your rent costs and make sure that you are saving as well. Next thing is a big one, learning to cook instead of door dashing or Uber eating food. So this is a big one, and it's a habit that if you go to the grocery store, I know it takes some time to go get the groceries you need and prepare your own meals. And on a busy work week, it's just so easy to just press the button and have food show up to you. But I think it's super important to realize that you're paying delivery costs. Every item, if you DoorDash something or Uber Eats it, is more expensive than it would be at the actual store. So if something was normally a $10 burger, it would be $11. Then you pay the delivery fee, service fees, and all of that. Same thing with Instacart and groceries. Things tend to be more expensive when you do it through Instacart because they have a built-in margin on the items. So that's kind of a hidden secret there. So if you can go get the groceries yourself, even if it's one day a week that you dedicate to, I'm going to buy all my groceries, I'm going to meal prep all my stuff, and I'll be set up for the week. I think it's really important because you'll save a ton of money doing something like that. And then the last thing is just consistently investing in a Roth IRA, a 401k, start building to retirement. And these are the boring choices, but if you do all these things for a decade and you build the habits, this is what compounds into freedom, flexibility, and then just overall the peace that you'll be able to do what you want to do. And in the long term, you're setting yourself up in a position that you're going to feel good about and be proud of. So, again, living like you're broke doesn't mean being miserable, but it means living intentionally and letting your future self thank you for the work that you're putting in now and setting yourself up that these habits are something that'll continue not only through your 20s, but into your 30s, 40s, and then hopefully into your retirement years. And you'll have plenty of extra planning assets that we can work with to help you kind of live your dreams out, both before and in retirement. So, I think the other thing that's worth noting is that feeling broke doesn't mean that you're failing. So, feeling tight on cash, it may feel like you're behind, and in your 20s, with it being the smaller salary years for most, student loan payments, and just learning really how to balance your finances, picking up rent, groceries, insurance, taxes, often for the first time, it's different. So, it's going to feel tight, it's going to feel maybe like you're failing, but it doesn't mean you are. So just remember that growth is uncomfortable by nature. Building a strong financial base isn't glamorous, it's not exciting, and you're going to probably feel broke. And it's not because you're bad with money, but it's because you're actually doing the hard things that building wealth requires, such as funding your emergency fund instead of going on a vacation or avoiding new debt, even if it means having FOMO. So remember, you're not failing, you're investing. And while it might not feel great at the moment, it is going to feel great long term. I think it's important along the way to recognize progress. You can't always see it. Sometimes it'll be a down year for the market, and you'll feel like, hey, I just put $10,000 away this year, but the market went down and it's not showing up there. My account's less than it was when it started the year. So you won't always be able to see it, but you have to know that, hey, that money when it recovers will be compounding. And it's not necessarily flashy, but it will feel good just to know that even if it's not linear, that progress is being made. So even if you say something, I don't own a home yet and I should own a home by this age, you got to think of what you are doing to win. If you paid all your bills this month, you open an investment account, you started adding to it, you got a life insurance policy to protect your family. Growth shows in a lot of different ways, and it's really about progress over perfection. And I think that's the big thing is that if you're doing something, you should recognize that progress and not beat yourself up over the perfection of I'm not doing as good as other people. So it's about growing emotionally, resisting comparisons, building patience with yourself, and then making a trade-offs of whether it's short-term fun or long-term goals, and then kind of a way to make sure that you are doing this is just once a month sitting down, writing down three things, three of your wins that you've had. So you can recognize yourself for the progress that you're having and not trying to hold yourself to the perfection side. So that comes back now, tying everything into the mental side of money, changing it from I'm behind or I'm broke to the I'm building side of things and recognizing that you're building, avoiding that comparison trap and knowing that you have your own timeline, and you don't need to be on anyone else's timeline. Celebrate the wins, seek help, seek advice, and do the best that you can with what you have, rather than worrying about what everybody else has. So, instead of thinking things like, I should have more money now, start thinking about what skills am I learning? What am I doing to advance myself in my career? What habits am I practicing, both in my relationships and in my finances? And then what systems am I building to support myself for 30, 35, 40, and so on? So, again, you're not behind, you're early, you're learning, you're budgeting, saving, investing, creating boundaries for yourselves. And the stakes are lower now. You don't need to have everything. You have a lot of time still. So this decade is mainly about building a foundation. And if you build a poor foundation, it will crumble under pressure later on. So this is really about building a strong foundation now for your future, more so than getting a gigantic portfolio and trying to get rich quick or falling into schemes of I'm behind and I need to do something crazy and drastic about it to save myself. So take 60 seconds today is the one thing I challenge everyone to do. Write down one financial or mental win you've had this month, no matter how small. Progress is progress. So if you want help building your next step and not just surviving, but really strategizing, please give us a call. We're happy to help. We love having the conversations, and I love celebrating the wins with people. So thank you for watching Financial Tides. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If not, we'll see you next time.